guys, I thought I'd take the opportunity to give you a first impressions review of my new bike. I've had this bike coming up onto 3 weeks now, and I've done a little over 1,000 kilometers with it. First up, I will say, this thing is a mammoth. It weighs almost 400 kilos. I'm only a little dude. I was trepidatious with a bike this big. Turns out the only time it feels somewhat cumbersome is when I'm moving it around the garage or when I'm trying to get it into little tight spaces at slow speeds. I'm really thankful that I have honed my slow speed maneuvering on the Shadow and before that the Intruder, and I feel pretty good about the way that I can handle this bike, even at low speeds. So let's go with the things I do like about the bike and the things that I reckon need a bit of improvement about the bike. First up, things I love about this bike. Number one has got to be the cruise control. I really had no idea what I was missing not having cruise control. Especially on long straight stretches, which I'm no stranger to living around here. That is just a delight. It really does take the edge off, and I don't know if I want to ride a bike without it from now on. I've been a little bit spoiled. The other thing I really enjoy about this bike is the 6-speed gearbox. With the Shadow, I found myself always looking for a 6th gear that just didn't exist. It revved heaps high, especially on the highway. With this thing, I find myself not even having to flick it into 6th, or overdrive as it's called, even when at 100k an hour. But when I do, it revs real nice, real low, and putting it into overdrive coupled with cruise control, the mileage and range is awesome. Another massive plus about this particular bike is the fact that it actually has a USB and a 12-volt outlet on it. This is something that I consider an absolute luxury, and so I was able to actually charge my phone while I was touring on it. That's just awesome. It negated the fact that I had to use a battery pack when I got to my campsite, and made it so that I could charge other things if I had to, like the camera or whatever the heck I wanted, really. One of the first things I noticed when upgrading to this bike was the fact that the seat was far more comfortable than the Shadow. It's night and day difference, and I couldn't believe how plush and comfortable this stock seat is on the Vulcan. That, coupled with the fact that the suspension, even though it's stock standard, it's air suspension on this thing, and it's really good. Something I've yet to discover is if Jude likes the back seat as much as I think she will, but knowing what she came from, as opposed to this, I think she's gonna love it. Another thing I very much enjoy is the fact that this bike has a fuel gauge. It really is the little things. It's pretty cool to know how much fuel I have or thereabouts and know when I'll need to stop next for it. So on to the things that I think are a little less than desirable. One of the things that I don't like about this bike is the width of the handlebars. Turns out I actually like to put a lot of gear on my handlebars, quad lock mount, camera mount, and that sort of looks a bit crowded up on those bars. The height. This bike is slightly higher than the Shadow, and I will say, because I'm knee high to a grasshopper, that's been somewhat problematic for me to get used to. Turns out I'm pretty adaptable, so I've managed it, but it was a learning curve. The last thing that I don't particularly like about this bike is that it takes high octane fuel. It's a minimum of 95, and where I live you can't actually get 95, so I've got to use 98. That's not a massive deal, but with the price of fuel nowadays and the fact that it's a 20-litre tank, I'm noticing the increase. Overall, I'm super happy with this bike. I'm growing to love it more and more every time I ride it, and I loved it from the moment I sat on it, so things can only get better from here on out. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I can't wait to update you after 10,000 Ks. Peace.